I just don't know if I continue to trust Utah, even though I keep picking against them. They keep freaking winning.
That I think is the best way to phrase this. That I really think is the best way to phrase this, because Oregon, without a doubt, is one of the best teams in the country in terms of how well-rounded they've been, how dominant they've looked in some of their games. The way that they pulled away against Washington State, and I know that Washington State's struggling, that's
Oh,
still a
brother.
quality football team. It's still a quality team that they pulled away from and dominated in the second half. They're running the ball really well with Bucky Irving. They're throwing the ball really well and starting to feel that out. And their defense has been one of the best in the country. Jordan Birch looks fantastic. The secondary is kind of still getting a feel for things. But that team is incredibly well-rounded. And if it wasn't for that loss to Washington, we would absolutely be talking about them in that top 3, top 4 discussion. But where I have pause, and I said this in the open, Utah has one of the best current active winning streaks at home. For whatever reason, that stadium,
It's spooky. It's spooky.
And it's not even a big stadium.
I agree.
It, for whatever reason, forces teams just to play down to the stupidest level possible. And nobody can figure out a way to bypass that. Now, I still think that Oregon wins, but I think this game is going to be like a three-point game. I think it's going to be really freaking close for that exact reason, that it is impossible to win at home or to beat Utah when they're at home.
You pretty much took my take, okay, of why I think I can't explain what they do to teams while they're at home. Maybe it's the elevation. Maybe teams aren't used to playing at that high of elevation. It gets to them. I do not know. Here's what I do know, though. I'm still not buying Utah offensively. Cam Rising, it was announced, is not going to be he's not going to play this year. So they're going to have to go with Bryson Barnes mainly. USC is a horrible defensive team. I'm tired of talking about USC. If you want to listen to me and Joe's segment about that, go listen to it on last night's show. But I think Oregon is going to suffocate them defensively. Mm-hmm. Oregon is going to suck the life out of them, and it's not going to be pretty. I do think, okay, I'm with you. I think this game is closer than maybe some people would believe. Just normal casual saying, yeah, Oregon's going to beat Utah pretty handily. I do think it's a 10, 14, 17-point game, but I feel like it's going to be more dominant than that. I think it's going to be more like you look up at the end of the game, you're like, damn, they only beat them. But kind of like Ohio State and Penn State, right? Like you just felt like the whole game.
Yeah.
Even though they only scored 20 points, you're like, man, Ohio State's going to eventually break through, and this is ball game. Penn State just can't score a touchdown. I think it's going to feel a lot like that. And I think that Oregon, Joe, they're still 100th in the country in total offense. They're not good offensively. Now, they have an amazing play caller, and I'll give Andy Ludwig that. I think he's working with some really bad offensive pieces at quarterback. One can run really well and can't throw. The other one is a decent thrower, but he can be a statue. And still USC gave up a 20-yard run to him for them to kick the field goal to win it.
The pig farmer.
I just think that Oregon is vastly the better team here, but I don't think they're the better coach team. I think Kyle Whittingham is by far the best coach in the Pac-12 right now, because of his resume. If Utah does have a chance of winning this, it's because Dan Lanning makes some more boneheaded decisions like he's been doing. Joe, he made a couple last week. I'm like, what are you doing? Regardless, I do think that Kyle Whittingham and that stadium, it's like you might as well call them Georgia or Bama, because they don't lose to anybody. I think Oregon by 14. I see it. I see it.
Really?
Yeah,
wow.
I see it. Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the line is, but I think that this is less than a 7-point football game. This might be one of those games where, like you're talking about, it's not going to be a game where you really necessarily feel like it was close. It's going to be really low scoring. It's probably going to come down to like a 4th and medium stop for Utah on their final drive, and then Oregon's just going to run the clock out. Maybe
Oregon's
get
got to start off fast, though, dude. Like,
Yeah.
to your point where I think what you're trying – Oregon's got to get on the board quickly. Like, even if – like, what Dan Lanning did against Washington, Joe, and was going for it on fourth down, they got to kick the field goals. You just got to go down there.
They got to stop dicking around. Yeah, they got to stop dicking around.
If you're going to get points on this defense, you got to go – you got to get them, right? Like, if they score 13 points in the first quarter, that is a massive win. A massive win. You just got to go get points on every possession, regardless of what it looks like. And if they do that, they're gonna win because Utah can't match up with them blow for blow, stride for stride. They cannot do it.
Right. That's where this all comes down to. For Oregon to win this game by multiple scores and for it to feel comfortable, it requires Oregon to pick up a ton of splash plays, to have a couple long scores to build up a lead that Utah can't climb back into. But the reality of it, though, is that they're going up against the defense that just does not allow big plays. The most susceptible to them that we've seen them so far this year was against USC. And USC has far more athletes than Oregon does. Oregon's been the more cohesive unit.
Defensively.
No. I'm saying that USC's offense has all those weapons that they have. But my whole point, I think, that is also worth acknowledging. Who has Oregon been tested by defensively? They have not come anywhere close to facing a defense this good.
Oregon State. Oh, no, you said Oregon. My bad. I'm sorry.
Oregon. Yeah, Jonah Ellis, Cole Bishop, that group has been smothering opposing teams. Do you know Jonah Ellis is I believe, the leader in sacks in the country right now? He's a monster.
And he has like more pressures than like the other top 5 dudes combined or something like that. It's just something crazy, right? Joe, I don't think it matters. I mean, again, I've also seen Utah, by the way, face a UCLA team and only score us a touchdown. Are we going to come out? Are you really going to come out here and tell me that Oregon does not have that potential to lock them down offensively? Because then I look at Utah, okay, again, against Oregon State, they only score 7. Okay, Baylor, all right, they score 20, but you get to a kind of a point where, Joe, the best defense that Utah maybe has seen is in Oregon. So,
no, I mean, I would argue that UCLA's defense and Oregon State's defense aren't that far off from Oregon's.
I just think Oregon's got more green grass athletes.
They do. Here's a take I have, a thought here. If Utah can score a special teams or a defensive touchdown, they can win the football game.
Yeah, if it gets like that, I can see that. That's not a bad point, but they're not going to.
You never know. Well, dude, one stupid mistake by Dan Lanning
or Bo Nix,
and Utah wins the football game. That's how you got to win. And they are the perfectly chaotic team, just spelled out by their home winning streak. They're the perfectly chaotic team to pull out a victory like that. But I agree with you.
Barstool's in the building. How about that?
I was thinking the same thing. I was like, who did? Knock off Dave Portnoy.
At one bite, everybody knows the rules. Hey, my man tried to come down to Baton Rouge and make peace.
No one wanted to acknowledge him.